Ever wonder why me, or why do bad things happen to good people? Today we are going to look at those questions on Cell Life Church Live.
Of the day is Romans 6 verse 23, and it says, "For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus our Lord."
Welcome to Cell Life Church Live. Thank you for joining us as we share an inspirational message that is relevant to life today.
Hello, and thank you
Hi.
for joining us today. We are so glad that you took time out of your day to spend a few moments with us. As you may know, we recently returned from Kenya, Africa,
Yes.
visiting our churches there
Yes.
and ministering to the pastors and church leaders. It really was our pleasure to encourage God's people and bring greetings from America. Be sure to be watching our website for a video summary of the ministry that was accomplished and the many faces that make up Cell Life Church Kenya.
Yes. Life is full of ups and downs. Every one of us has had a time when things are going great, and then, through a series of circumstances or just one main event, everything changes.
Yeah.
It's during those times that we can't help but ask, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Well, today we're going to take some time to talk about Joseph, who experienced several horrible things throughout his life. God had a hold of his life and prospered him during those times, though. And when we are walking through the trial, it doesn't seem as though God's hand is upon us or that he is prospering and blessing us.
I recently was talking with a gentleman who less than a year ago was riding his motorcycle on his way to work when a bus pulled out in front of him. The impact of hitting the bus at 55 miles an hour shattered his ankle, broke his leg, ruptured his lungs, broke ribs, and caused several internal injuries. His life was changed in an instant. He spent months learning to walk again and to use his hands. This gentleman noted that he was in the prime of his life and had just got a really good job. Everything was going great and he was enjoying life. Bad things happen to good people.
Yes.
Bad things happen in the prime of life when everything is going great.
There's a man in the Bible named Joseph, one of Abraham's sons, who experienced tremendous difficulty for a large part of his life. He had jealous brothers who didn't like him. And Joseph was the youngest of 12. But he was his father Jacob's favorite son, and his older brothers knew it. One day when Joseph was heading out to meet his brothers, who were shepherds, in the field, they devised a plan to take revenge on him for being Dad's favorite son. They stripped him of his ornamental coat that their father had given him and threw Joseph into a pit. Not wanting to kill him, they sold him into slavery. And that's where we're going to pick up the story.
Let's read Genesis chapter 39, verses 2 through 6. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care, with Joseph in charge. He did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate.
Did you catch that? Joseph was a slave and had no rights of his own, but the Lord was with him and gave him success in everything he did. Do you think that maybe he questioned, why me? When he was sold into slavery? Do you think he questioned, where is God in all of this? Now, I'm sure he battled with abandonment issues. I mean, his brothers abandoned him, then sold him. Had God abandoned him too? Absolutely not. God used Joseph in that place at that time. And God still had a plan for him, a mighty plan. As a slave, his master Potiphar, who was a captain of the guard for Pharaoh, had great trust in him and gave him authority over his household.
Yes. Just as Joseph was settling in, enjoying his position as much as the servant could, something else goes wrong in his life. Let's pick up the story in the next few verses. Let's read Genesis 39, verses 6 through 12.
Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh is right.
His master's wife was making advances, and Joseph wanted nothing to do with her.
Run.
Joseph honored God with his actions by refusing Potiphar's wife again and again and again. But the wife was devious and tells Potiphar that Joseph made advances toward her. As a matter of fact, she says in verse 17 that the Hebrew slave you brought us came to me and made sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. Well, as any husband would, Potiphar grew very angry. He had Joseph thrown in prison.
Yes.
Now Joseph has been falsely accused. Once again, the feeling of abandonment must have rung strong in his heart. Once again, he was at the mercy of others for no fault of his own.
Yeah. Maybe you can relate to Joseph. Sometimes when you're beat, you get beat again.
Yeah.
Our tendency is to blame God and ask him, "Why did you allow this to happen to me?" And this can be a very pivotal time in a person's life. This can cause a person to hate God and turn their back on him completely, even to the point of believing that there is no God. People tend to buy into the lie that says, "Surely there cannot be a God if this happened to me." Friend, there is so much more to this story. Maybe you're at that pivotal point in your life, ready to throw your hands up in the air and say, "I'm done. I can't take this anymore." Well, let's continue our story in Genesis chapter 39, verses 20 through 23.
But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did.
God didn't abandon Joseph. No, he was with him in that prison cell.
Yeah.
He granted him favor in the eyes of those in authority over him. God hadn't forgotten Joseph, and God hasn't forgotten you either.
That's right.
No matter how difficult the circumstance, God is with you. He hasn't abandoned you. He's not done with you yet.
That's right.
He has mighty plans for you.
Yes. If time allowed, we could go on to chapter 40 and read how Joseph became cupbearer to Pharaoh, which gave him access to the most powerful person in the world. God gave him favor.
Yes.
He began to interpret dreams for the prison officials with the wisdom of God. And having access to Pharaoh, we read in chapter 41 that the king has dreams and summons the smartest people in the kingdom to come and interpret his dreams, but no one could. The prison guards tell Pharaoh how Joseph had interpreted their dreams and summoned Joseph, who was the only one that was able to do so. It's not long after that Joseph is placed in authority over the land, second only to Pharaoh himself. God had a plan for Joseph from the very beginning. As soon as Joseph's brothers threw him into that pit, God put a plan into motion that would not be easy for Joseph to walk through, but would be magnificent.
Yeah, and what's even more cool is if you continue to read, you'll see how God saved all of Israel through the fact that Joseph was the second of all in
Yes.
Egypt. So,
Yes.
I mean, God's got plans.
Yes, he does.
Don't look at the situation you're in. Joseph's story is your story.
Yeah,
You are not alone. You have not been abandoned.
that's right.
No matter what you are facing, God has a mighty plan for your life. It may not seem like it now. Been there. But his favor is upon you when you surrender to his will for your life. You may not have chosen your circumstances, but God is with you and is walking this path beside you, clearing the way for you.
That's right.
Everyday people like Joseph fill the Bible with examples of God's power in a person's life. We encourage you to read more on your own. Discover how God has used people and showed himself mighty among average people.
Amen.
You are not alone. God is always there with you.
Praise the Lord. Amen. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
We enjoy encouraging you and bringing you these messages.
We do.
We would like to interact with you regarding this message or any of our other ones. You may comment on this video on YouTube, Facebook, or even on our website. Speaking of social media, have you subscribed to our YouTube channel or our videos? How about liking our pages on Facebook or Instagram? We invite you to, so that we can get the gospel spread all around the world. So thank you everyone also who prays for us. Prayer is powerful and effective. We really value your prayers, so thank you for that.
Yes.
Until next time, be encouraged in Jesus' name. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Cell Life Church Live. We hope you have been encouraged. If this message touched you in some special way and you would like to contact us, you may do so on our Facebook page, website, this YouTube channel, or email. We enjoy hearing how these messages impact your life. Would you consider supporting Cell Life Church financially? Contributions can be made online and are tax deductible in the United States. Details for giving can be found on our website at www.celllifechurch.tv.